Morning all. Someone's notified me of a very dramatic British Championship playoff game which occurred between Stephen Gordon as white and Gawain Jones as black. So the time limit for this, 20 minutes each with a 10-second increment. So Gawain Jones, the higher rated on the FIDE rating, which is for one-day games, 2653 Grandmaster. Stephen Gordon Grandmaster 2539. So D4, and Gawain actually chose the King's Engine defense. I've had the honour, by the way, of playing Gawain in a 5-minute tournament a couple of years ago. I managed to get a draw out of it. He slipped up tactically. It is possible for Grandmasters to make mistakes tactically. They're just human. It's not like computers, you know. So 20 minutes though is like quite a big 5-minute game. In fact, 4 times the size, but we're talking 10-second increment per move as well. So the accuracy is going to be a lot higher than a 5-minute game. It's rapid. It's in the realms of rapid chess rather than blitz chess. Okay, so knight f6 was played, and we have a King's Engine defense. Okay, the standard King's Engine defense position. Now white chooses knight f3, so he's ruling out say f3 to go for a kind of hack attack like that, or positionally the Siamish variation. So knight f3 is classical, and after castling, bishop e2. Okay, so we're proceeding classically. After e5, I think the most common old move for classical line is castling here, but white played bishop e3, which could cause a lot of problems for black. And okay, what does Gawain do? He just plays knight d7, knight bd7 to reinforce his e5 pawn. White now castles, and now we see c6. Okay, and it looks like there might be an invitation, you know, to either take or play c5 at some point. It looks as though is this a little bit fragile on the d file, but on the other hand, c6 is potentially a very useful move, not just for controlling d5 a little bit more, but maybe later, you know, a6 and b5. But there's also something interesting here. After white didn't want to keep that central tension and didn't want to play d takes or play for c5, instead he plays d5. Okay, so white is concentrating on achieving a solid spatial grip on the position, solid space advantage. Black now plays c5, so he's depriving himself of that natural c5 square for a knight. Knight e1, and now king h8 is played, which usually has the idea for exchanging off the dark square bishops, but sometimes, you know, maybe just knight g8 and then f5 and then see what happens. Okay, king h1, queen e7, now queen d2. And now we see this knight g8. But here, black can't play bishop h6, obviously, this battery now. On the other hand, he's still got f5 as an option, maybe. g3 was played, and now f5 was played. And white actually took on f5, so the idea here, after g takes, is usually to play f4, and maybe try and get some squares, maybe a nice knight on e3 later or something. Knight g2 controls that f4 square even more, and the knight can go to e3 later, potentially. Knight df6, rook a e1. So white is not really faced with any immediately dangerous kingside attack. Bishop d7, and now bishop g5, pinning the knight. Okay, unpinning with queen f7, and now finding this f4. So the idea really is to fix some pawns on light squares and get a dark square blockade. After e4, not an immediate knight e3, but using this one now, knight d1, which takes the break off b5 actually, because it was also supporting d5. There's some pressure on d5 here, and black takes the opportunity to play b5. So that's the first question actually I would have for an engine here. Was this actually the best move, knight d1? what would an engine suggest here? Because it looks as though white doesn't really want to allow black too much counterplay. From an engine point of view, knight e3, rook b1, or even a4, knight e3, now bishop h4, rook b1. But yeah, knight d1 does seem to be a slip actually in advantage, where okay, b5 is coming up as a good move now, and that was played. So maybe this is the sign that black is getting a little bit of counterplay. So he plays b5. And you know, for a lot of King's Engine players in this sort of position, to play that is a bit of a sigh of relief, I would imagine, because you know, if this drops off, then this diagonal is good. You've got potential play on the B file. It's the natural pawn to sort of undermine here in this structure. What else is there to undermine in terms of white's pawns? Knight d e3, and it looks as though there's going to be a price paid if black dares to take here. Then d6 is going to be under fire. So actually, black plays rook a b8 and just is content with a space squeeze on the queen side with b4. So he's marking out those dark squares. And then we see queen d1, so introducing a potentially useful battery and support for bishop h5s. Okay. And, okay. Guess what black plays here? Black to play. So, black 2653 GM, Gawain Jones. Guess what he played here? I hope you haven't seen this game before. I'll give you 20 seconds to try and work out what he plays here. It's a blunder. That's the clue I'm going to give. Okay. Okay, guess the blunder. Okay, I hope you've guessed the blunder. The blunder, knight e8, and yes, there's a slight issue with weakness of the last move with knight f6, because if we observe the weakness of the last move principle, the knight was actually controlling the h5 square, and this means now that there's a bishop move which is dangerous, which I hope you can spot. If I give you 10 seconds. Okay, I might have given the game away just earlier anyway. Bishop h5. And the queen here is actually trapped. This bishop is controlling e7. Where is the queen going? There's nothing to actually interpose. And, okay, I really... Maybe, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I would have expected black to resign. I don't know about you guys. But white is a 25-39 GM, and this looks to be winning the queen. An engine evaluation here, I'm pretty sure it's going to be about +6. No, +7, +7.57. But remember, it's only a rapid game. It's not quite a 5-minute game. It's a rapid game. So we're talking +7 here. Okay. Okay. This brings into mind though, hang on a sec. Is it really calculation that separates the top GMs? Or is it imagination and planning? Because a lot of the time, okay, I'll post blitz videos, there's going to be lots and lots of technical blunders, and some people even, they get sometimes a little bit, you know, bit nasty about it. Oh, why did I miss some simple tactics? Well, here we have a 2653 GM missing the queen being trapped. Often I think it's not really technicalities. I hope it's not the technical cold aspects of chess which just distinguish the very top players. It's imagination, it's planning, it's strategy, it's strategic crush. It's more the softer stuff. And here, the technical exam has been failed. Black has just lost the queen. He's going down technically. If he was playing a computer, he might as well resign. But he's playing a human being, and it's on a rapid time control, not one-day chess. So he does actually dare to play on, which I don't know, maybe shows fighting spirit, some could argue, or does it show a slight disrespect for the opponent to play on here? But he does play on. So we see bishop c3. White should be able to convert this though. You know, he's winning queen for a bishop here. Why can't he convert this? What are the issues here which give black any compensation at all to dream about? Well, actually, there is a dark square grip. There is a space advantage here. There is also a semi-open g-file if you look at this structure. So there are some trump cards which, with a little bit of imagination, you could get these doing something later, maybe, just maybe. The dark squares in particular, this bishop's slightly awkwardly placed, this bishop's more naturally placed. It's got support from these two pawns. On the other hand, white's got a nice blockade. Can't he do anything with this blockade, or is it a passive blockade? So anyway, the queen is munched. Bishop takes f7, rook takes f7. Okay. The rook moves, okay, doesn't want to lose the exchange, or would it be a big deal to leave the exchange just to try and get a dark square attack later? Maybe it's not a big deal, but he moves the rook. Maybe his intention is, you know, he wants the rooks, you know, to be doubled here for g4 later, and then he could undermine e4. You can imagine rooks being doubled, pressure on e4, g4, please resign. Okay. Knight g7 is played, reinforcing f5. Rook c2, as though the exchange sack will be played here more favourably in collecting that b pawn after with queen c2, so the bishop gets out of the way. So it's actually difficult for white to grab that bishop here. How can white actually get at black's material here? It's interesting. It's almost like not a fortress position. Clearly, there's a g4 break. There's going to be other breaks surely, but at the moment it's difficult for white to get an exchange going here. The position's very blocked, closed up, locked pawns here. These pawns are locked with these ones. This one's locked with this one. Pardon me. So we've got a locked pawn chain. It's difficult for white practically, isn't it? Or does he go for the g4 break and use the g file? He plays h3, betraying the idea that maybe, you know, g4, you know, maybe knight h4, gang up on f5. So knight f6 is played as though to discourage g4. g4 is played anyway. fg, hg, and surely white has slightly increased his prospects now, because he's got the potential of either moving the bishop back, or maybe he doesn't really maybe want to swap it off. Then g5, and these pawns are also another trump card for white. But okay, we still have that pressure, rook g8, so it's used potential pressure on the g file, and that f5. This looks a bit menacing, and here black plays now knight gh5, prompting first exchange for a while. That dark square bishop decides to go, but now that there's a dark kind of storm here, because if you imagine white taking on h5, then taking, and there's a dangerous combination of the bishop and the two rooks. Is this absolutely dead simple all of a sudden? Has the evaluation shifted? Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Let's keep an open mind here. After f5, it went from 7.83 to 9.81, 10.11, 10.18. Okay, like an auction, it's going up, 10.43. So it seems actually bishop h4 would have been a good move. Bishop f6, less of a good move. Bishop h4, keeping the dark square bishop on, might be a good safety precaution here. And then g5 to follow if we look at this engine line here. So bishop h4. Okay, imagine black does want to double rooks. There's nothing going on here. You just take on h5. What is going on there? What does it do? Knight goes back. It gets a bit grim, doesn't it? After g5, the knight goes back. One of the knights goes back here. Why not this one, you might ask? Because f6 and that will drop. So it's pretty grim. It is actually pretty grim. And if this one, then you take here, and it's not really a big deal. So it is very grim, but there's a slight tiny slip up here because white took on f6. So he's only plus 6.70 here. And what's happened here is black still has these brewing kind of dark storm trump cards, so we call them. Okay, you need a bit of imagination, but look, there's a dark square bishop which is now unopposed. White hasn't got the dark square bishop. Black still got this potential pressure on the G file. And I know this blockade seems a little bit passive at the moment. So okay, White plays a seemingly defensive move, Rook F4, as though G5 is being ruled out now. That's another major triumph over what we've seen previously, that White is not easily getting in G5. Okay, so now Rook Fg7, it looks as though, why has Black all of a sudden got potential threats here now, like for example H5 and Rook G3, where maybe Rook H3 is dangerous with a nasty pin, etc. on G1. Why has Black got threats here? Bishop, so Rook D2, trying to get rid of that pesky bishop. It moves again. This Rook now moves, offering the exchange, not the F Rook. So he wants to offer that exchange. Sac. Clearly Black, this is the pride of Black's position, this bishop on E5. He plays Rook G5 now. Okay, which looks as though it's supporting H5 without even sacking a pawn, just to intensify the G-file pressure. So Black's still in the game, sort of. The evaluation here is, has it gone down from +6? It's now about 6 to Black's achievement. It's about +6 to White. King G1. Okay, and now again a move which seems to be preparing H5 at the right moment. King F1, but also the bishop might have possibilities later. Okay, just bear that in mind. Rook 8 to G7, Queen C2. It's like a little fortress. How does actually White break this down? But with this move, it looks as though he's interested in sacking the exchange for a pawn. But now Black uncorks H5. Okay, and White tries to break down this kind of grip that Black has on the position. He sacks the exchange, but it's still leaving that beautiful bishop on E5. So after knight takes, queen takes, I think the evaluation might be dropping slightly. Although we have achieved, White has achieved slight simplification. No, it's gone up actually to +7. +7. Okay, +7. Okay. Okay. HG4. I think there's basically something interesting coming up very shortly. Okay, HG4, and it's not completely easy though, it would seem, to play this position. Maybe you do need some accuracy as White. You do need accuracy in chess, you know, especially with G3 and Rook H7. Are these guys not coordinating here? F6, attacking the Rook, which also carries with it a slight weakness of the last move, for the temptation of the strength of the last move, which is just to ram this pawn down to F8. For the moment, though, Rook H7 keeps a discouragement on the F7 move. Okay, and there's also something else going on, but you know, maybe F7 isn't such a bad move, just to do another exchange sack. But White, okay, so in this position it looks as though well maybe another exchange sack is justified. White might be doing okay. Okay, knight H4 is mentioned, tactical move knight H4, Rook F5, knight takes G4. Is F7 even on the list? It's not really on the list. Is it really? Can it really be that bad though to simplify? Actually, it doesn't really achieve much after bishop takes F7. It doesn't simplify, so forget F7. But other moves, knight H4. So Rook takes H4. It's a bit of a decoy for F7. That would make F7 better. So then you do simplify. So knight H4 might be a move to encourage that F7. Okay. Now, what we see next is guess the move. So Stephen Gordon, a 2539 GM. Guess the next blunder. So if I give you 10 seconds, or you may want to pause the video. White to play and blunder here. Okay, 10 seconds starting from now. What does white play? Okay, white plays King E2. Now, there was a slight weakness of the last move with this F6. Actually, I'm starting to remember Sveti Tartko saying chess is a fairy tale of 1001 blunders. That expression somehow comes into mind of the King E2. But okay, it's only a rapid game, so it's even more fairy tale land, rapid and blitz. What does black play here in this position? Can you spot it? If I give you 10 seconds, starting from now. Okay, bishop g6. To be fair, both players are totally exhausted probably from the championship. They've probably been out on the town the night before, maybe with each other, who knows. And they're all, alternatively, they're just both extremely nervous. So here, it seems as though white's queen has now been trapped, and playing an instrumental part in this revenge queen trap is this bishop controlling still all the dark squares, so the queen can't escape to a dark square like f4. These pawns are also helping, of course, even if the bishop wasn't there. Okay, so we go down in evaluation now, or do we? Does white have the f7 resource? Because he's now threatening f8. Well, actually, that's just taken. And white is forced really to give up material to avoid the queen being lost here, if he doesn't want the queen being lost. Did he really need to play f7 in this position? Is it actually that bad for white? f7 is not really mentioned. It actually gives black a small advantage, gives a slight advantage now after rook takes f7. So f7 is not right. Here, rook f5, knight f5. Even queen g6 seems apparently to be better than f7. Queen g6 and then f7 with a small advantage for white. But say something like rook f5. Okay. So if bishop takes f5, knight takes f5, it's fine. But maybe the concern was putting more pressure here. But in this position now, f7, and here, knight takes, and there's going to be queen takes f5 just to get the thing, the f pawn going. So rook f5 seems reasonable to get simplification. So actually a double howler now, exacerbating maybe the slight irritation of the queen being trapped. Because this not only loses the pawn, it increases black's control of the f5 square. So rook takes f7, and there isn't a queen g6 for rook f7, because unfortunately rook takes f2. You can imagine this move to take here. Unfortunately this is check, unfortunately. So not good here. So white has to give up material. He gives up the knight, and actually black technically now is doing fine technically. After rook takes f5, he's introduced rook takes f2 to win the queen here. White really is struggling to find a decent move now. His best move apparently is to take on f5, because queen e3 is facing a slaughter with bishop d4. So he takes on f5. Black's in the driving seat now. Rook takes f5. Okay, bishop takes f5 is played, which technically isn't as good apparently as the rook move. Queen e3, but we're in for a fight now. In this position it's about equal. So this is now a position where black's trump cards, this pawn is a menace. The coordination of the rook and two bishops is a bit of a menace. The knight's still not brilliant. Okay, rook h5, introducing ideas of rook h2, knight f4, check, king f1, king h7, and white has a very, very difficult position here now. Knight e6. We see check, check, and now rook h5, keeping the pressure on, keeping maybe a discouragement for knight g5 check, because maybe king g6. So asking, like, what is he doing here? Also, of course, if the knight moves, then there's bishop d4 with a nice skewer. So king g2 coming off the dark squares, and now g3, this horrible pawn. Check. King to g7, actually not to g6. Knight f3. Check. And now rook f5, and this looks grim now, because there are severe threats that white is facing in this position. White actually might be completely lost in this position. If the knight moves, there's bishop d4 still. It's horrendous, this coordination of the rook and the two bishops. I think white's totally lost. He plays queen e4. Okay. And in this position, rook f4 is played, and now a nice move to finish off. I wonder if you can spot it if I give you 10 seconds starting from now, making use of the trump card, the g pawn. That's a clue. Okay, rook takes f3. The queen's helpless here. He resigns here. It's a bit tragic. He should have won this. Queen takes. If queen takes, check. g2 and black's a bishop up. Oh dear, oh dear. And this position was lost here. The queen against that pass pawn. It looks as though it's lost. If rook takes f3, could have been played immediately in this position. What a comeback, though. I don't know. It was a bit cheeky, though, to play on, maybe, from one respect, but it's only rapid chess. Blunders occur. It's more of the fairy tale that Tartakower wrote about. Chess is a fairy tale of 1001 blunders. What can we say? Chess between humans will really, you know, these are very tired and under stress, these two players. So a queen blunder. But, you know, one asset of being a human, and whether I think that's Super GM or whatever, is imagination, spirit, getting things coordinated, rearranging, reorganizing, creativity, using whatever trump cards are available, even if they seem, you know, you need to have a boost of imagination to see these trump cards being dangerous, and some help from the opponent, of course, to sort of lose the queen back in return, or lose material back in return. The pawn mobility, unfortunately, dream was lost here when when white played bishop f6. If he had played bishop h4, the pawn mobility could have been maintained. Of course, it's easy for armchair critics with engines, armed with engines, to really take the mickey out of any game, but this is a bit of a strange game. But it's a rapid game. It's a rapid game. Normally, you'd expect lots of blunders, and it's only the 20-minute time control. You know, okay, there's a 10-second increment though per move, but black had a kind of difficult position to seemingly crack now with that bishop and the dark square blockades going on, and the potential for organising, you know, h5. So an exchange sack, but now this f6, which seems as though it's gonna lead to something good with f7, but unfortunately f7 here might not have been the best. White's actually now on the back foot in this position. Black has achieved a magical kind of comeback in this game, and can deliver a knockout blow with rook takes f3. Interesting game. Okay, I won't tell you the result of the other playoff game. Maybe I'll cover that later. So very dramatic playoff game. Both players' nerves must have been shredded to pieces, and as well as being totally exhausted. I imagine that's the most likely scenario. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.